Warning!
For the W, a Wisconsin sports podcast on this centennial edition
may in fact contain language that you don't want your children to hear, John.
Sensitive ears and children of all ages may not want to hear the type of language that may come out of my mouth, your mouth, or special guest Giever's mouth.
Or Eric Bach, who's pre-recorded and will be on later in the episode.
But what we do have
is the best of all the sports in Wisconsin that you care about, and none of the ones you don't.
True.
Packers, Badgers, Bucks, not necessarily in that order, and a big giveaway this week for our 100th episode.
Couple shoes. Thanks for listening.
For the spelled like words.
Oh, hey there, John.
Oh, yo ho, 1-0-0. Hey there, Nick.
Oh, hey there, Giever.
Oh, hey there, Nick. Oh, hey there, John.
Oh, hey there, Giever.
Oh, it's good to see all these bright, shining faces in front of me, some in person, some virtually. Man, we're ready to kick it off for episode 100 of For the W podcast. And if you listen in, as we already mentioned, later on in this episode, we will be giving away a pair of shoes. To enter, you need to listen and find out how you can enter to win. And actually, we're not giving them away on the episode. We're giving them away in a few weeks.
It's a complicated process, but these are not just normal shoes.
Yeah. And
they are Zoom Freak 3s.
For the W style.
Absolutely. They are dope. And we really appreciate the listeners. We really appreciate the ability to make 100 episodes in a world, in a state that we could call our own. If we were born on Mars, no chance of this.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share the design right now. They are completely For the W themed. They have all the For the W colors. The new Giannis Zoom Freak 3s, a hot item. Very hard to procure these. And if you look at these here, you can see behind the tag here are on the back of the tongue. We have FTW 100 commemorating our 100th episode. So stay tuned. Later in the episode, we will tell you exactly how you can win these, especially if you're a sneakerhead or just a fan of Wisconsin sports. I'm thrilled that we're doing another giveaway. I love doing these giveaways.
Nick, this is an appreciation giveaway for all the listeners out there. I hope you're one, Giever. I am one. You are one, Nick. But there are many others all across multiple regions of the world. And those are the people that really deserve to enter themselves into a giveaway just like this. They should give back to themselves.
Yeah, give back to yourself by listening to this episode and finding out later on the secret password and how you can enter to win. Giever, thank you for joining us, sir.
Hey, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you. And I guess without any further Magoo, there has been Magoo on this podcast from time to time. But what do you say we just head north to the campfire?
Let's go.
And just a reminder that you can find us everywhere you find podcasts. I would recommend listening to us exactly where you're listening to us now. As always, if you go to forthew.buzzsprout.com, you will find that we are everywhere you find podcasts. But now we are on your favorite streaming. We are on YouTube, and we're on Facebook. We're all over the damn place. Facebook, Reddit, for sure Reddit with you, man. You've been all over Reddit lately.
Reddit is opening my eyes to all sorts of new possibilities for my life. Giever, you ever been on Reddit?
No, I follow accounts on Twitter that just find Reddit highlights that are funny.
Maybe I'll be one of those someday.
Maybe you will.
Yeah, Giever, you got to pop in on that. I recommend highly John's content. It's some good stuff.
I've been asking everybody for a few weeks now, Giever, who do you got in a game of one-on-one, Giannis or an actual Velociraptor Jurassic Park vintage?
Are they playing basketball or?
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, Giannis is going to beat the Raptor at basketball.
Yes, but dying counts as a loss.
Okay. Yeah, but Is the ref like calling fouls?
I've Giever, if you were on Reddit, you would know, but I've explained that the rules of one-on-one are generally adhered to in this game. I think it would be Giannis 21-0, but it would be a fun game to watch. It would come down to the, it'd be a real enjoyable experience to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's a basketball game, yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's a basketball.
If it's just like a cage match with a basketball hoop in it,
nope.
It's the Raptor.
Nope. The Raptor understand, they clever girl, they understand that.
Come at you sideways, if I remember correctly.
Yes. They learn. They test the fences. Either way, Giever, Nick, we've gotten way off track here. We're here in the North Woods.
Yeah, and this week we got a lot to be happy about, lots of sports to talk about. We saw pretty much awesome wins in all the basketball-related sports.
Across the board, yep.
We saw the Badgers beat Ohio State. We saw the Bucks demolish the Warriors. We'll definitely talk about that. Those all occurred last week, Thursday, on the same night. We were all very busy. And then, of course, Packers have an upcoming playoff game. We know the opponent now will be the Niners. And I think, back to this whole Raptor thing is, I think everyone realizes, like, size-wise, Giannis may be taller, and that factors. That's my 2 cents.
Yep.
We've gotten a lot of good feedback from our Reddit fans, and I'd ask anyone to please continue that wonderful feedback on Reddit when you get the chance. But what do we want to start with in this one, John? Because I know you're trying to steer us into something that you've prepared special for this episode.
Well, Nick and Giever, I've been trying to bring a little culture to this here segment. And the culture that I'm trying to bring is that of Wisconsinites past. Last week, Giever, as you know, and Nick, as you know, we quoted Aldo Leopold, a conservation hero.
Not great feedback on that.
Nick, a very small but vocal subsect of our listeners. Either way, Nick, I told you on the way up here that I've got something special for you in particular. And this week,
I'm just sitting here like, oh, what the hell is he going to bring into my world?
I've got a few quotes from one of your favorite names to bring up on this podcast, Laura Ingalls Wilder.
I was really hoping you were going to say Vic. I was hoping it was going to be Vic Ketchman. The quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard.
Laura obviously wrote Little House on the Prairie, and also wrote lesser known Little House in the Big Wood. She was born in the Big Woods region, an eco region of western Wisconsin and eastern Minnesota. She was born on the right side of the Mississippi, though.
Thank God.
Obviously one of the more famous literary minds to come out of our great state, and she has some bangers as far as quotes go.
Do they relate to Wisconsin sports?
Exactly, Nick. That's the best thing about them. They relate so perfectly. It's almost as if a few hundred years ago she wrote directly to the 2021 Green Bay Packers, Wisconsin Badger basketball team, and Milwaukee Bucks.
And just as our patience will be rewarded, I promise you, for the listeners, your patience will be rewarded, because we'll probably be talking about the giveaway like right after this.
Well, Nick, for the UW Badgers, she had a special quote that she wrote. She said, "If enough people think of a thing and work hard enough at it, I guess it's pretty nearly bound to happen, wind and weather permitting." Nick, the Badgers... Giever, the Badgers are 8th in the country, just as this podcast predicted could be possible.
We did.
Johnny Davis is out there going for Player of the Year nominations, and during his game against Ohio State, which we're going to talk about later, he struggled a bit, but enough people believed in the thing, and they came and rallied around him. And it was bound to happen. A victory over Ohio State. The Grateful Red were out in numbers, and revenge was served that day.
Vengeance, revenge, revengeance.
Now, something for the Bucks that she wrote.
Just lost to the Hawks, by the way.
Who just lost to the Hawks, and that dovetails perfectly into what Miss Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote about them a couple hundred years ago. She wrote, "The trouble with organizing a thing is that pretty soon folks get to paying more attention to the organization than to what they're organized for. This is a team that won a championship and cemented itself in NBA history forever.
The lore.
And we seem to be working on our organization as opposed to our championship pursuit, especially with recent loss to the Hornets, the Raptors, and the now Atlanta Hawks tonight just happened. The attention and the goal for this squad is obviously championship or bust. I do wonder if we are worried a bit too much about fitting roles that fit Budenholzer's system as opposed to finding guys who are just going to win basketball games. I see a lot of people. I know a lot of people are really high on Grayson Allen. That dude sucks at defense. I know people are really high about Jordan Nwora. That dude sucks at defense and sucks at offense in a team setting. So, like, we need to start scaling those minutes back. Personally, I believe. What do you think, Giever? Giever's gone.
Oh, you're talking to me? I'm
Yep.
here.
What do you think about Grayson and
Grayson's fine. Laura's just a bench player. They need to actually care. I think caring is the biggest factor that they have at this point. And,
go
when
ahead.
they were mad and they all got back after they started 6-8, they went like 12-2. And when they care about playing a big team, they destroy them. So
annihilate.
it's just caring.
When you care about a thing, and there's plenty more of that to come when we get to the Cream City Keys. So I think we're going to have a pretty good conversation there that kind of plays that out with the last bunch of games we've had. And when they care about a thing, which they certainly did, John, against the Warriors last week, Thursday, we saw what could come out of that. We've seen it against the Nets earlier in the season. Maybe these other teams, I know last week we had made a comment of like, you know, a couple game series against Charlotte is not the same thing as the game against the Nets. So I always believe the Bucks are kind of trending towards the load management side of things. But certainly more on that in the Bugle. In the Cream City Keys.
And
close call.
Then, Nick, the last quote from Laura Ingalls Wilder, your favorite author,
is she?
was specifically written for the Green Bay Packers. Some thoughts for the Green Bay Packers. Every job is good if you do your best and work hard. A man who works hard stinks only to the ones that have nothing to do but smell. Now, Nick, this is a team that's been surrounded by a media firestorm since literally the moment we stepped off the field of the NFC Championship last year. There's all these people that got a lot of time to smell, including me, Nick, around them. But, Nick, if they just go out there, focus on their business, especially as we talked about pre-pod, even if Bosa and Wagner play, likely to be a bit banged up, they've got a San Francisco team in front of them. Now we know the opponent that we should beat, and it should be good for the Packers. It should be a clear sky, easy sailing towards this, at least the NFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl. So I think that if the Packers just stay focused on what's in front of them, they can do the thing that they need to do. If they get caught up in all the other shit, I don't know, Nick. I don't know.
Well, I'll say this, very aptly said, John.
Thank you. Laura Ingalls Wilder. I mean,
Laura nailed it on this one. I'm going to say, I'm glad that you tied it all together. I think that's good, not only for Laura, but for us as Wisconsinites.
And for you, the listener.
And for you, the listener.
Or you, the viewer.
You, the viewer. John does not break the fourth wall. I do. He's an artist. I am a hack. That's the difference.
Giever's breaking the fourth wall the whole time.
Yeah, he's been breaking the fourth wall since the word go. And so that's probably the fourth aspect. We've got Badgers, Packers, Bucks, not in that order. We got
It is in that order. Badgers, Bucks, Packers.
Badgers, Bucks, Packers, fourth wall. And I think fourth wall for this giveaway now, I've decided that will be our password this week.
Fourth wall. Number 4?
Well, you could say fourth. You could spell the number, or you could just put the character of 4. And when you do that, I'm just going to pull it up here again. You'll have the opportunity to win these beautiful For the W Zoom Freak 3s. All you have to do to enter to win is to go to our YouTube. You want to comment on the YouTube the password, which is fourth wall. After that, you must be subscribed. So subscribe, because when we draw, it'll be from our subscribers.
I'd recommend subscribing first.
Yeah, probably subscribe, then comment fourth wall.
And for our listeners who can't see it, the shoes that we're looking at, the Zoom Freak 3s, are decked out with a W on the tongue. They've got the
Giannis armor on the sides.
For the W green and orange and white and cream.
All things that are good here.
It's beautiful, Nick. Go to our YouTube, subscribe, put in the password on this video, fourth wall, and you'll be entered for a chance to win. Do yourself a favor.
And we'll be sharing that on all of our social media. And that's another way that you can have an additional chance to win. If you do go ahead and share this on your social media, then we will see another entry in your name.
Yep.
And then we'll be drawing the winner. So keep your eyes open for that. I'm really pumped. This is probably the best giveaway we've done. Last time we gave away a jersey. This will be fun. So that is our I guess that's how you win them.
That's the giveaway. That's
how
the
you do it.
episode 100 giveaway.
100 episodes. And for 100 episodes, I am drinking a 50% rye, thereby making it 100 proof. And God, I'm glad I'm sharing it with you guys. You and I, John and Giever, we've had so many conversations sitting around, talking sports, shooting the shit, and
drinking coffee in a can.
And we're going to do it again here tonight. So without anything else, I don't know what you guys, anything else to say before we get into the bugle?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, it's at this time where I say, let's head on over. The Bucky Bugle, the school newspaper of For the W.
The Bucky Bugle, the first unadmitted Wisconsin student newspaper of note.
Well, one day, we decided it was time to get deep undercover for some Wisconsin college sleuthin' and truthin'.
Wait, are those Brad Davidson's footprints on that pair of testicles?
Sounds like Brad Davison is afoot.
Wait, is that Greg Gard in this rural, small Minnesota town?
A recruiting hotbed.
Wait, is that Shaka Smart leering down from the Fiserv Forum rafters?
I see he's back on this side of the Mississippi.
College basketball coverage on For the W, a Wisconsin sports podcast brought to you by the Bucky Bugle.
Sleuthin'
and truthin', Nick.
Yes.
This team is the truth.
We've been sleuthing. We've been hanging out in bushes for weeks, and now I think we see the truth. I was saying, as my ceiling for this team, I was saying a 4 seed in the tournament. At this rate, we're playing very well. We still have a lot of tests are coming our way, but man, the Badgers have really performed well against some top competition. I just want to run through to start this segment, this edition, dare I say, of the Bucky Bugle, the official school newspaper, unaffiliated, unauthorized, and unadmitted student school newspaper.
Not student newspaper.
Well, it's not. Well, it is
school newspaper,
but we're unadmitted, right? That's true.
Yeah, but not student.
What are you doing, Gives?
Oh, show.
So if you hear the squeakiness, that's just Giever.
Yeah, that was my laptop screen bouncing because there was something on the screen like right here.
He's partying over there. It's crazy stuff. And not only is Giever partying, but the Badgers are partying, or at least they were last week Thursday after that win over Ohio State. Ranked 19th overall now. We have beaten the Boilermakers, now ranked 4th overall. Going back in time a little further, we also had that wonderful win over Houston, a team that we've now passed in the rankings. I believe they were like 12th when we played them, and now we are moved up to 8th. So those are the ranked teams we've beaten. Now, we did lose to Providence. They're now ranked 21st, but that was a close game. And then we also lost to Ohio State earlier in the year, a game that went very differently than this game. But that was also, a big, highly touted matchup. And I think the Badgers performed to the level that they really wanted to in this most recent game, other than our big star, Johnny Davis. Now, Johnny had a really nice game, but anyone that watched the game, I think we can all see it was pretty clear as day that Brad Davison played out of his gourd, maybe his second best game as a college player, other than maybe that UNC game. But we really neutralized EJ Liddell. That was a big part of the game plan. That worked out very well. And Ohio State, they sold out to stop Johnny Davis, and it showed because not only did we see some great performance out of Brad Davison, who he's not really famous for anything else, but being the second best player, and of course Tyler Wall, who put in 20 points. And Tyler Wall at points in this game looked really beastly, really took over.
Yeah, this is 2 straight games where he's kind of been the best player on the floor for extended stretches of the games. But it all comes down to, did we get to the line? Yes. Did we not turn the ball over and force a couple ourselves? Yes. And how did we shoot? And like you said, Johnny Davis was way off his game, 4 for 18. That's terrible. 22% from the field, 14 points, but still had 9 rebounds, 2 assists and a steal, 4 turnovers for as much as he handles the ball. I mean, this is a terrible game for him, but like I said in the opening, he's got this player of the year buzz coming. Even at this game, he's still leading the nation in scoring. And so Brad Davison, Tyler Wall coming in, even Steven Crowell was hitting, he hit a 3. He was all over the floor, got 7 rebounds, 3 assists himself. Tyler Wall, though, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, was our best player, finally breaking out of his shell. Giever, who's your favorite white guy from Minnesota on this team?
It's got to be Wall for now, right?
Yes, it can't be Davison.
No, and honestly, like the thing, and we talked about this. So before the season, I mean, you and I, we talked about Johnny Davis as our surefire top scorer.
Yep.
Tyler Wall as another guy that we would see up in the top of that list. John Stradamus, Nick Stradamus, they were dead on. But the other thing that I do want to point out, and Johnny Davis did not have a characteristic game, but I don't think it can be, I don't want to belabor the point, but I don't know that we can overemphasize that Ohio State was doing everything in their power to prevent him from being the lead scorer. And when guys like Wall are stepping up, and of course Davison, who really did look like the savvy veteran, and how could he not? He's been in college since we were all born. And
he's a grad assistant now, right? He's collecting the paycheck.
Gotta be, right? And especially now, like it's like semi-pro ball if you're playing for the NCAA.
Maybe he's in on Graham Mertz's like marketing campaign for the I got 5 on it kind of thing.
Yeah, I got 34 on it, which is how many years Brad Davison has been playing college basketball.
Yeah, like, he's legitimately like 25, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine he's younger than that. I would kind of think that he might even be a bit older than that.
But the other thing too that I noticed in this game is and he didn't have
he's 22.
Oh god, that's sad. What? Yeah, wait, how is he 22? There's no
there's some shady shit going on with the birth records in Maple Grove, Minnesota.
He's had 4 playing years and like 2 red shirts.
He started playing college ball at like 16. What is going on?
This says April 22nd, 1999. So he must have started as basically a fetus on the bench of the Wisconsin teams.
I mean, he's been playing since the late 80s. I don't get how this is.
Either way, I apologized last week to Greg Gard. And
that was messed up.
I want to be able to hop on this bandwagon, and now I have completely hopped on the bandwagon. And I think this team is going to go up the rankings even further. The ACC is trash. The Pac-12 is trash. Gonzaga is the number 1 team in the country right now. The SEC is trash. It's just like we have such a slate of games that we're going to lose a couple, but our record is going to be so much more impressive than most of the teams above us. And the only Big Ten team currently ranked above us is Purdue, which is trash because we crushed them.
And we beat them on the road, too.
Yeah.
We still have them at home towards the end of the year. Friday, Michigan State. That's going to be a nice test. They're ranked below us, but Michigan State, especially ever since Tom Izzo has been there, that's a team that can pretty much beast on anybody. So my thought is, if we can split that against Michigan State, we're in really nice shape. And then, of course, get out your cream, get out your ointments, because Cockburn. We will be visiting Cockburn when we go to play against Illinois. I know they say Coburn, but we know.
You can't spell it Cockburn.
Yeah.
There's no way it's Coburn. There's no way. A memo went out. A memo had to go out.
A memo went out.
Yeah, you get one silent letter per name. I'm not taking this silent entire consonant.
The silent CK.
Right.
And this is why we ask you to stay here, because we're not part of the lamestream media. No, we're independent. We bring you the hard-hitting news. It's Cockburn because we know how to spell.
It's Cockburn, damn it.
Maybe if it was a Q instead of 2 letters, I would believe the silent treatment for that pronunciation. But either
Cockburn, but with a Q instead of a C.
And if you want to hear more about that, I recommend going back about a year ago. Last spring, we did an episode.
It was probably our worst performing. Like, all the streaming services were like, do not put.
But it was titled aptly, may I say, Cockburned.
Well, that's the thing. Illinois is huge. This year, we're bigger with Vogt, who again got like 15 minutes in the last one against Ohio State, with Steven Crowell, who finally showed some balls the last couple games. Sorry, Steven, but come on, man. And then Tyler Wall, like I said, breaking out and becoming the player that we kind of all expected him to be this year over the last couple. This team is rolling right now. And Nick, I texted you this, and Giever, I'm sure I've told you this before. My current philosophy in the NCAA tournament bracket is pick the team with the best guard and the best defense, and try to find the highest of those two things on one team, and that's the team that usually is going to win the thing. And I think that the Badgers are really putting themselves in position to be that team.
Yeah, I mean, this is a solid team this year. Giever, I got to ask you, so like being out in Colorado, how much Badger stuff do you get? I know you've got like some services or something, I would imagine. Have you been able to?
On occasion, I got to see the Ohio State game.
Okay, the most on Thursday.
Maybe. And Fox Sports I can get.
Okay, all right.
Like
so
FS1 and stuff like that. So I've seen a few of their games.
He's living the dream out there. But yeah, I think this Michigan State game is going to be telling. Giever, we'll talk after the podcast. I got something I can maybe offer you to help you get more of these videos coming your way, so you can really scope out the tape.
That's what's here. I'm doing research. Guys.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to do this, you got to do it well. And sometimes you need tools and resources. I'd be happy to provide those. And speaking of tools and resources, I do want to say, like, the way that this team is set up, I talked very frequently early on about our 5 Tigers, our 5 starters, our main guys. We've seen Vogt come in. He's had some really nice additional minutes off the bench. And that's been kind of our rotation, is rotating out that big man. But I do want to talk about Chucky Hepburn, because as I've alluded to the past bunch of weeks, his numbers don't jump out on the stat sheet.
No, 0 points against Ohio State.
Absolutely. But watching him play, this is a dude that, I mean, we're talking like Mike Kelly. Now, I think he will progress as a scorer as his career goes on in college basketball. But what we've seen from him up to this point is just lights out defense. Like, you could write all the cliches, about good defense, be so close to him you can smell his bubble gum, to quote Hoosiers. I didn't really quote it that well. But yeah, I think we've really seen that aspect. And that's not something that's being talked about, because Johnny Davis is having an incredible year shooting the ball. Other than this game where the team that were playing the opponent in Ohio State, really, they sold out completely just to stop him. Like, they did everything in their power to prevent Johnny Davis from having a game. And even still, like, first of all the other opportunities, as I've said, 14 points, and he was still our leading rebounder as a guard. He's like, I mean, there's just nothing you can do to neutralize everything that this team has. And then, I mean, we even saw some other guys come off the bench for some meaningful action. Not like a ton of minutes or anything, but we've been seeing Bowman coming out, Gilmore. We saw a little bit of Neath in this game.
No minutes for Ben Carlson in this one, and no minutes for Jordan Davis, which
we saw 3 minutes for Jordan Davis.
Well, yeah,
garbage time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that I heard on it must have been a podcast earlier this week, but
wasn't
Johnny Davis and Jordan Davis, and also Keegan Murray for Iowa, and I think there's Keith Murray. I can't remember the first name of the twin. Either way, both of those guys in the Big Ten are really shooting up draft boards. Like Johnny Davis is currently ranked 7th on ESPN. Keegan Murray's not.
Chris
6th.
Murray is the twin of Keegan.
Khris, yes. The fact that those dudes both are like studs out of nowhere and both have twins, I just thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. Like,
Fucking crazy, man.
Are they all from Minnesota? That would be apt, Twin Cities.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nick.
Things are happening here. I'm glad we had this discussion. I don't know. I think we've got a lot of good Badger content to talk about here. We've talked pretty heavily on that. Giever squeaked pretty heavily on it.
My bad.
Yeah, you're all good, man. We'll edit it out later or not. Either way.
Yeah. Sorry, listeners.
The squeak stays.
Whatever.
Either way, I know this much. The viewers will understand why, because they'll see it. The listeners will have a little bit better audio because our streaming service does edit some stuff for us and helps with sound levels. So speaking of helping with sound levels, we've put a lot of sound into the Badgers, but there's way more to talk about on these other two teams. So what do you say we make the trip? We'll head east on 94. We'll go past the Pine Cone in Johnson Creek. I'm going to stop and get a cream puff, and we'll head on our way to the Cream City for Cream City Keys.
Exciting.
Yeah, I don't hear any argument there, so I'm just gonna start this engine up. Yeah, let's do it.
And like the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks, we persevered. We kept the defensive pressure high. We just played to our strengths. We listened to Coach Bud, and we fucking grinded it out, Nick.
Jrue Holiday has been excellent for our starting lineup.
He's a Giannis. He plays Giannis. He's a Giannis. Their coach is still Mike Budenholzer, Nick.
Not surprised. Going to that last game in Game 6, I just felt deep within my soul, we've got this.
Now, Nick, you may say, was it really that lopsided? And Nick, I would say, fuck yeah, it was, man. The Bucks are champions of the fucking world.
And welcome once again to another installment of the Cream City Keys, where we find out what is working, what is not, what we can improve on, and when we're going to get our center back, because really this team needs a big man after we let the boogeyman boogie on down the road. And now, in this hour, John, do we need a big man?
Nick, I think we need a big man. I think we need Brooke back, first and foremost, and then maybe that solves it. But if he's not going to get back, we need a big, like the Bucks game against the Warriors was obviously incredible to see. Draymond was not healthy for that one, so it wasn't a full strength Warriors team, and Clay had just come back. It'll be interesting. We play them in like another couple weeks here again. We'll see how that goes. But then we lost to the Raptors. Tonight we lost to the Hawks. We've lost to the Charlotte Hornets twice in a row at the end of last week. And Nick, the reason that we're losing these games is twofold. A, we do not have anywhere near the same rim protection we used to. Teams are able to score at the bucket much more effectively and often than any time that we've had Coach Bud and therefore Brooke Lopez throughout these last couple of years. But secondly, we need somebody to play the two guard that's going to play the position in a complete way, whether it's can Dante hit some shots or can Wes Matthews create a shot for another player, or Can Grayson Allen play any defense at all? Can Pat go back to earlier in this season? I mean, he's barely shooting now. Like, I mean, tonight he was 5 of 6, but this is his first double-figure game in like a month. Dante had a couple threes tonight, but still was only 3 for 10 from the field. Grayson, I mean, I don't know what happened to Grayson, but he is not the same dude who started the season. Giever, what the hell are the Bucks going to do with that position and the big man position?
Honestly, the one biggest thing with the last couple, I could say 5 or 6 games, is we got to the old Bucks where we don't drive, we just drive to kick out the threes, and we shoot way too many threes.
Yes.
So if we're really feeling it, we can bury a team. But if we're not, they kind of hang around, and then the tide kind of turns. Against Toronto, they just sold out with 3 guys on Giannis, and we got rid of the person just chilling in the dunker position. That just hasn't existed this year, which is weird because it worked, especially to keep Giannis from being triple teamed and for, Dante missing like 6 threes. Like in Toronto, we would have won that Toronto game if we just had a regular Wes Matthews game. He was like 1 for 7 from 3, which has been weird. But that's what happens when you shoot like 40 threes and you don't you don't have any mid-range game, and you don't have a guy in the dunker position when no one's in the paint because 3 guys are on Giannis at the free throw line. Also, too, they just don't really care about 2/3 of the NBA. They just kind of ho-hum, do whatever. But losing to Atlanta again is probably going to piss them off, so they'll probably go on a run here. They'll get Jrue Holiday back, too. I'm not worried. The worst thing that could happen is we could still fire Bud, which would be pretty fun.
I think
that's always an option. We could always still fire Bud. And so this is good. This is good.
Giever and I did an episode together last year, like in the springtime. And Giever, I think you and I remember this. We were both like on the fire Bud train.
I know.
And John was very upset.
I was pissed. But I will say this. Darvin Ham is the one who lost twice to the Charlotte Hornets in a row.
But
Darvin Ham was kind of rough.
Well, and going back to that, at that time, as we were talking about that, and you and I were talking about the things that Bud does that don't make any damn sense. However, there was a lot of things to me that didn't make any damn sense in the playoffs, and all that worked out. So there's a method to his madness, and maybe he's just like a evil genius sitting there in the lab. But it's never good when you're losing to the Atlanta Hawks, and he's
an idiot savant. Bud's just an idiot savant.
We've dropped out.
He'll have you do the same thing that's not working way too long, and then he'll just ignore the 3 obvious counters that you can do and just show up with this other thing out of the blue that's like, oh, that actually does kind of work. What about the other 3 easier things, though?
Well, I think the best thing for a guy like Giannis, who gets really hyped up and needs to be calmed down, is to have him just get acclimated to a certain way of playing. And I think if you tell Giannis this is going to work really well and it works the first time, all of a sudden he's going to get really hype and start trying to force the issue in that way, whatever that is. And so I think by coaching in a non-linear way, by coaching in an abstract art type of way, Bud was able to bring the most out of these guys. But here's what I'll say. Bobby Portis has actual limitations, and the Toronto Raptors are a perfect team that has the ability to take advantage of those limitations. There is no one on the Toronto Raptors that isn't stronger than Bobby Portis. Like, whether it's Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Precious Achiuwa, whoever that random dude is they signed off the street that was hitting shots against us with the afro. Either way, that team is big, strong, and tough. And Bobby, I love Bobby, and he's played a hell of a year, but we need a big man, an actual big man.
Well, you need the rim protection, I think, is really what Bobby missed. Like, that's the difference between Brook and Bobby. Now, Bobby against Golden State, for example, he was nailing threes, just nailing threes. However, his ability to be a top rim protector isn't anything close to a Brook Lopez.
Guard the
How
rim.
could it be? Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
no, he plays.
He's not a rim protector.
Right.
Zero.
Giannis has to play center when
Bobby's
on
in
the
there.
floor.
Exactly. Which
And
you're
on
pulling
defense.
Giannis away from some of the things that he does with the agility game that are irreplaceable. And when you have Brook there, it really frees Giannis up to be a Giannis.
Well, where we've seen a bit of a drop off on the defensive side of the ball, which we are now 8th in offensive rating and 7th in defensive rating. So we've been really coming up quite a bit on the defensive side of the ball. But Brook Lopez being able to shoot the ball from 30 feet and also being a 7'2", 280 pound when he came into the NBA, so probably like 315 at this point pound, man, he's just bigger than everybody else and stronger than everybody else. And when he's 30 feet from the basket, hoisting a jump shot or waiting for a pass, he's able to get back on defense right to the rim. So you don't get any transition buckets against the Bucks when he's on the floor. Now, you compare that to Giannis, who's now taking the defensive center position. Giannis makes his hay at the rim on the other side of the court. So he's now running an extra 30 feet per possession that Brook would have had covered. Now, Bobby is back there shooting threes for sure, but he's not protecting the rim on a transition on a 2-on-1 situation.
Well, exactly. And
Brook
that's the
will snuff
difference.
it out.
And Brook can also hit from beyond the arc.
Right.
So, I mean, there's not a lot of guys like Brook Lopez.
There's one.
Yeah, I say there's one other guy that's like, that's
We
perfect.
just need Rolo to get bought out of his 1-year contract and sign on.
We've been saying that since the word go. We have loved the whole Rolo. I mean, tea time. Let's bring it back. If it had not been for the bubble, I don't know that we ever would have lost Rolo, because I think we would have had a couple championships these past couple seasons. The bubble really screwed the Bucks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
sad.
It was a fake tournament for fake NBA teams to go as far as they
training
could.
camp champ.
Training camp champion LeBron James.
You spent
Training
a
camp
month in the
champ.
same spot. You all play scrimmages without anyone there. You know, it was a training camp chip.
Absolutely.
It counts, but I mean, it was training camp. You know,
Had visions of the Packers-Lions matchup last week to relate it to something else in our more recent history, just kind of like this, like glorified preseason, right? Like
it was the
one more thing on the Bucks though. What Giannis really needs to do is, if he's getting a wall of 3 people on the free throw line, post up one of the guys at the free throw line.
I like
Don't
it.
drive hard. Do the Jokic thing where it says it doesn't matter if you double or triple me. I'm good enough at passing that I'm just going to find whoever's cutting or whoever's open every time. And he's good enough with that. So if we're being serious, post people up at the 3-point line, post people up on the left block. He's really good on the left block. And then just run Giannis, Khris, and Giannis, Jrue Holiday pick and rolls till, they stop it, which they won't.
Well, that's the other big thing.
That fixes the offense. And, Jrue Holiday.
Yes.
Jrue Holiday over George Hill at the point of attack. So the Bucks are fine. They just need to care again. And
here's what I'll say too, that watching that Raptors game, especially after watching us demolish Brooklyn, after watching us demolish Golden State,
we'd lose maybe a game to the Raptors in the playoffs.
Right. Unless somebody gets hurt. Like, they're a team that could take, like, if Giannis goes down and misses 2 or 3 games, we could find ourselves in trouble. Like, if it's the same situation as it was against the Hawks last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we don't have Brook Lopez, I think we're in trouble against that team specifically.
Honestly, against like any of the really good teams, Giannis goes down, we're screwed.
See, I have more confidence.
You maybe have a Middleton 40-point game like against the Heat where he's just battling everything, but like you're not going to win another series. Like,
right. I just don't think
the Hawks who we played in the conference finals are like 17-25 right now.
Yeah, they're
like number 11 in the East.
They're 2-0, I think, against us though.
Yeah,
somehow, some way.
The best part about the Bucks is there's actually been like 5 different Bucks teams this season. Like, we've had our backup center be Boogie Cousins for like 2 months and Thanasis Antetokounmpo for 2 months.
Yeah,
these are
the
two
nasty.
teams.
Yeah, it really does come down. See, that's why I look at the other teams. Brooklyn is, especially KD just sprained his MCL. Fun times for Brooklyn fans everywhere, I'm sure. Not the ones that go to the home games because Kyrie doesn't get to play, so it's just James Harden burping the ball up every time. But without KD, and even in general, that team doesn't have the defense to me to even, like, if Giannis misses 2 or 3 games, I still think that Nets team is not the same as it was last year.
Certainly not.
Whether
Let's
it's
see if they let Kyrie play in New York ever again. Because that team, when Kyrie's the main ball handler initiator,
Man.
he keeps them from just doing KD's turn for one-on-one, Harden's turn for one-on-one, KD's turn for like, you notice how when Kyrie got hurt, half their team couldn't play anymore?
right. That's
Like,
true, but
it's a completely engaged, locked in Kyrie. It's a completely different team.
That's
If
when he's
just-
Uncle Drew.
when
if
have
he's
we seen
half
that?
in it, if we
Years
get Boston Kyrie in the playoffs, it's over. If we
But
get
we
last
crossed
year's
Boston
Kyrie in the playoffs, it's a different story.
See, I think
But-
Kyrie's so overrated. I think he's so overrated because it's like this dude hasn't done shit in the playoffs for 6 years, better half of a decade. And I agree with you that in theory
He
it
was
works.
owning Drew Holiday.
I mean, owning for like 41% from the floor.
So here's a question I have for you guys. So
It doesn't
if-
matter. It's that it gets into the lane every single time on a pick and roll, and he's the only guy that can do that against Drew Holiday.
True.
I
So
thought Drew would win that one. Drew wasn't winning that matchup.
So
So
if
if
we're
we
going to
get
get
that
into the
again-
Kyrie conversation and you talk about like Drew wasn't doing his part to neutralize him. I've seen some rumors out here, and maybe you guys have seen these same rumors that perhaps Milwaukee or some other playoff team that plays the Nets may enact a vaccine mandate for specific games in the coming series. Is this a possibility? Now, I think it would be pretty good strategery, may I say?
It all
Strategery.
depends on who's vaccinated on your team.
So that's what I wonder about. This. So are there teams that are, I mean, and this isn't stuff that's public knowledge, right? Like we saw it in the NFL, like everyone thought Aaron Rodgers was vaccinated because he was immunized, right? So
Yeah, vaccinated enough, guys. Vaccinated enough.
It is public knowledge though when you go to Toronto, because unvaccinated guys can't go to Toronto because they might not be able to return home.
So do we see, and I'm not saying like necessarily like this is the way I would approach it, but do we see NBA teams that when we get to that point start maybe implementing some additional guidelines for these playoff games for a strategic advantage?
I
Well,
think it would have to be like the county, wouldn't it? At least like it's an
I don't
actual
know.
law in New York.
If Bobby Portis, who has his own key to the city and his own special holiday, decided to enact a law, could that work?
But unofficial mayor of Milwaukee, Bobby Portis.
Well, we'll noodle on that.
That's something I just want to throw out there. That's just like
So like, what would that take, Bobby Portis? Would he have to like assemble an army?
just a militia, you know.
I don't know if he needs to assemble it so much as just like set up like a couple rabble rousers throughout the Deer District to keep the perimeter. And
You might need a little more.
for Kyrie,
I just
I was
imagine.
just talking about taking power, like annexing Milwaukee.
I just imagine like
The kingdom
after the
of
South Park,
Bobby
like,
Portis
people
the
just
first.
sitting around going rabble. So we've gotten totally off. I
Well,
apologize, you guys, for my question.
I think your question does bring up a good point, though, and why I don't think the Nets are going to maybe even win a series in the NBA playoffs. First of all, James Harden sucks. Secondly, Kyrie, if they have to play Toronto, he can't play at all. If they have to play the Knicks, he can't play at all. If they have to play, are there any other teams in the East that are like that?
Yeah, but
Florida's
they'd beat the Knicks without Kyrie. I don't
Yeah,
think KD's
maybe.
enough.
But KD's got a sprained MCL right now. He's out for
and 2 months he's not going to have a sprained MCL. Like this
Maybe.
dude came back better than ever off of a torn Achilles. That never happens.
It took him 3 years, though.
Yeah, but
I
he's
mean-
still back in his like mid-30s.
Yeah.
Better than ever. That's
I
insane.
think this sets us up perfectly for an episode down the line here where Giever comes back, because we need to revisit this take, because right now it's all speculation, but like honestly this could be one of like the quintessential defining moments of this NBA season as we get further down the line.
I think Kyrie would be very happy with that if he was one of the quintessential moments of the NBA season. But like
I mean, Kyrie is the Aaron Rodgers of the NBA.
He loves it.
Only he doesn't play.
Fucking loves it.
One more thing is, I wish some point in my life I can inspire people to write actual articles that say something like Kyrie Irving was built for part-time work. I want them to announce to the world that Alex Giever was made to work part-time.
He was made to work part-time.
Not only for people to write it, but for people to get paid to write that.
And to believe it. Believe it deep within their souls.
And just like the Bucks, we we're taking it a little easy this segment.
Yeah, this has been like I was like, I'll sit back. You guys will do all the heavy lifting on this one.
We're matching the effort.
Yeah, this has gotten right into the Nick wheelhouse, the Nick Stradamus wheelhouse for sure. Bucks currently fifth in the standings in the East. So after dropping those two, we're now 2 games out of first place.
Our bench is trash.
It's a little rough right now.
Our bench is trash.
There's too much of the bench. Like,
is there any
playing 12 guys every night? Like,
and Grayson needs to go to the
9.
bench. Grayson needs to go to the bench.
So I got to ask you guys this, and this is more just like me being more of a football fan than an NBA fan. Is there any chance that Boogie comes back?
No, he's going to go to the Nuggets.
He already signed a 10-day, didn't he?
I believe so with the Nuggets.
He can play the 10-day roller coaster for a while, but he's probably not.
So when I go onto the world's information platform, Google.com, it does say that Denver should sign DeMarcus Cousins, or he must sign, but I don't think anything official has come out quite yet.
Okay.
Is there the chance that he can end up back in Milwaukee in any spectrum?
I think so.
I mean, is it possible? Yes, but like I said, I did get the sense when I was listening to Eric Name and Frank Madden and Kane Pittman. All three basically said some version of he wasn't necessarily Bud's favorite guy. And
what also would he come back and take the slap in the face?
I mean,
to have a non-guaranteed contract.
No, he proved that he can play. I mean, defensively, we were a disaster, but he was definitely scoring. And
in Denver, they already run a scheme for a ground-bound overweight center where they trap, just like we were doing with Boogie, which we never do. We were trapping the pick and roll because it's better to have him trap and just like rumble back to the rim than have him try to stand there in the rim flat-footed. It just messes the offense up more a little bit to have him out there 30 feet from the basket. Denver already does that with Jokic, and it works all right. So they're kind of built for it, but like,
and Denver's always hurt. They're always missing guys.
Yes,
every year.
Yes,
yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. They gave him a max contract.
MPJ.
Dude, his body held together just long enough to get an NBA max contract.
enough duct tape and silly string to like keep it together.
He played like one college game, and then blew on his back. Got drafted, missed a year, played like a year and a half. Got a max contract, never going to play again.
Blew out his back. Yep. It's all a cycle.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to Brooke. Anything else to add on this? Get
well soon, Brooke. That's all I have to say. We need Brooke back in a bad way.
We need Brooke back a month before the playoffs start to get him back into basketball shape.
That's been kind of my thought, because this team, I think they'll get in the playoffs. Now, last year we did it out of the 3 seed. I don't necessarily think it matters who we play if we're at full strength going into the playoffs.
And honestly, playing Brooklyn 4 times in Brooklyn and Kyrie can't play in Brooklyn is probably a win for us, huh?
Yes. Being a lower seed than the Nets is an advantage for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we can listen to Wu-Tang on the drive there, that's all I care about.
We do have the Bulls coming up this week.
So this is actually a really good transition, because Friday, just like last week, we had like a really cool Thursday deal where we had the Badgers playing against Ohio State and the Bucks playing against the Warriors. Now on Friday this week, yeah, we have that matchup against the Bulls, and then the Badgers that same night are playing against Michigan State. So we're going to have a really fun Friday night. You and I will be talking about it Saturday on our way up to Lambeau.
Hopefully.
I'm super pumped about that, but that'll be a good game. Any predictions for this one, guys?
For the Bucks and the Bulls, I think we're going to crush them because they don't have anyone to guard Giannis, and Caruso's hurt.
Giever?
Yeah, it's not going to be close.
And then now transitioning that over to Badgers versus Michigan State, playing at home.
Those games are always in the 50s. Like,
yeah, but this is a different Badgers team this year. And honestly, Michigan State has been up in the higher scoring ranks too. These are teams that are consistently putting up 70, 80 points a night. This might not be your mother's Wisconsin Badgers Michigan State matchup, which my mother loved.
Izzo loves slowing it down against Wisconsin. I think he uses it as like a training ground for his guys for the play or for the tournament. They're ranked 10th in the country. We're 8th. It's going to take some magic from Johnny Davis because I think Brad Davison is not going to be enough against Michigan State.
Where's it being played?
It's played at the Kohl Center, and actually Michigan State, they're 14th in some other, whatever the ranking is that's coming up on my Google here.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting. Okay, Giever.
We take them in Madison. We don't win in East Lansing.
So East Lansing is a loss later in the year. Right now, Badgers currently second in the Big Ten behind Illinois. Michigan State currently third. Ohio State and Purdue, who the Badgers have both win, 4th and 5th respectively. We should have talked about that in the Badgers segment, but I'm in agreement with you guys because you guys are my two biggest sources for Bucks and NBA knowledge. So I'm just going to say very definitively, Nick Stradamus is picking a W on Friday.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Anything else to add from you gentlemen before we go to Titletown Transmission and John and I unveil our big 3 players of the week, which we have not yet talked about?
Yeah, let's go to the important game.
It's going to be an important game. I'll take that. We'll see you guys up there. So we will drive past the big ass flag on our way to the North Woods, almost the North Woods at Lambeau Field. We'll see you guys in the transmission.
You're now listening to Titletown Transmission, the unauthorized and underground radio of the Green Bay Packers.
For the W presents the story of a team that grew out of a small port town.
80,000 tailgaters every Sunday.
Statues of legendary coaches Vince Lombardi and Curly Lambeau welcome those fans.
Owned by the citizens of every county in the state of Wisconsin.
Jair Alexander,
Mercedes Lewis,
Zadarius Smith,
Josiah DeGuara,
Whitney Merciless,
Bob Tanyan.
All right, and we are live here with Eric Bach of Bach Performance, back again, one of our earliest guests, and we're pumped to have him back here for episode 100.
Yeah, man. Hey, studio is looking great. I'm thrilled to be here, and we are in a great position, right? We got a bye week this week. Don't have to worry about anything. Then off to the races through the Super Bowl and celebrating that in about a month.
Yeah, so I think we can all assume.
Hopefully.
John's been very skeptical. We'll say that.
But it is great to have you back. And,
Yeah.
Things are going extremely well for multiple teams throughout the state, especially the basketball team, the Badger basketball team. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Yeah, we're pretty pumped
Yeah.
high on the Badgers right now. So you're in South Carolina. Have you gotten much of a chance to watch the latest Badger stuff, or what do you actually get down there other than the internet?
Yeah, man. So not a ton necessarily. I've caught a couple games. I've been paying attention, mostly checking out box scores, seeing what Johnny Davis is up to, seeing Brad Davison in year number 37, I think, at Wisconsin, right?
I would say he's
it.
the Van Wilder of Wisconsin sports.
He's like Robbie Hummel, man. He's continuing to go through. But no, man. So I kept some of them. I have been able to get all Wisconsin sports for about the last year and a half. We'll not talk about specifics on how that's happening, but that's a non-negotiable in my life, at least during Packer season. And yeah, man, it's been great though. Yeah, so South Carolina, a little bit of a shift. We had palm trees and 75 degrees for Christmas, so I can't complain with that.
Yeah, so to folks that have listened before, they're already aware, but you're a Wisconsin native. You and I grew up just down the street from each other, so plenty of time spending growing up playing sports and getting into all that. But since that time, you've really done some incredible things with your business now, Bach Performance, and just awesome content. I gotta tell you, like, I follow all your stuff. I'm on your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, and I think what you do better than anybody else is just really summing up those fundamental aspects in a way that's just like in a way that's just like not only informative but also like pretty entertaining, and you're not spending all this time. Like, I think people get so like freaked out about that kind of like fitness, and like people want to plan, and you cut out all the BS.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's something where almost anything, people tend to overcomplicate it, and a lot of times we look to overcomplicate things, frankly, because one, the way that we're marketed to, everything is like the next best answer and better than what you're doing before, and it makes it really difficult to understand what are going to be the key components that are going to help you move forward and really be able to change your life. And when that happens, when you're consistently changing what you do or being led to believe that there's a better aspect of doing something, you never ingrain what the core principles are to be successful, and as a result, you're always looking for that next best thing. And like anybody who's been involved or anybody's tried a workout program knows, when you do something and you don't get the results that you're expecting, whether it's due to consistency or a belief that maybe shouldn't be there based on how something was marketed to you, then it's really demotivating, right? Like, you lose that momentum and you're like, you know what, forget this. I've got something better to do. I've got 85 other things to do on my to-do list. We've got all this COVID stuff going on. I don't really want to go to the gym anyway. So, I try to clarify things as much as possible, because when you understand the key principles, you can adapt anything to your life. And when you can adapt it to your life, that's when you can be consistent. And ultimately, that's what I want people to do. Learn how to become self-sufficient, take care of themselves, because when you're healthy, you can show up as the best version of yourself and be the best version of yourself for your family, for your business, whatever else you deem important. And frankly, if you're going to go up to Lambeau Field for the divisional or the championship game, you can rip your shirt off and be pretty happy with the way that you look as well.
Yeah, and honestly, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm really hoping to get up there for that divisional. I will see. My dad's working on some tickets. He's up in the Green Bay area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know John's recently gotten back in the gym. Every time I talk to him now, he's like, yeah, I'm in the gym.
I'm playing basketball a lot. I joined a basketball league, and I am it's like a free agent team within like a city league. And I hope my teammates don't listen to the podcast. Man, we got to do better, gentlemen. We got to do better. But the idea was, it was very similar to the service that or kind of something that your service will provide. Is I needed something to just like get some movement in my life in a world where it had become so easy to not move. It was. Yeah. And there was every reason in the world not to do a thing, and sitting at home making lists and plans and all that. I mean, I really definitely relate to what you were saying, where it's like buy-in is the first step. It's not, and doing a thing is the first step. The planning and stuff and the writing it down and all of that and thinking of it and wishing it is really prep. That's prep for the thing that you are doing. It's not the thing that you're doing, but it can feel like it,
Yeah.
I really, like I said, I related to what you were saying with what you were hoping for.
Awesome, man. Yeah, glad that connects. That's the biggest thing, right? Like, we can start to plan until we're blue in the face, but ultimately you have to be able to do the thing, I mean, hey, speaking of like a football game, right? If it was all about fantasy football and the numbers that people got, like, it'd be a lot different what the product would look like than what you actually see on the field. Again, this is my Packer homerism coming out, but you see all like these advanced statistics that break down everything that's going on. They're like, Green Bay's never as good as their schedule says, but ultimately, what does it come down to, right? Winning games. Cool. I think we're doing all right. 13 wins each of the last 3 years. I'll take that over, DVOA or any advanced analytics that they want to put out there.
Yeah, just win, baby. It's a quote for a reason. And I know, like, talking about sort of like the pre-planning, for me, I'm a procrastinator. So for me, like, anytime I would be about to like get back in the gym, and I spent a lot of years doing powerlifting and like really consistent, and I spent all this time like, oh, I'm going to really plan this thing out to be perfect. And like, if the workout or like the workout week, like I didn't hit my 5 days with the amount of time I wanted and all these things that would throw me off. And honestly, I'm at the point now with my fitness where like, I just try to hit your 10,000 steps, like that principle you always post, just hit your 10,000 steps. And that does wonders. You know, and I think, you know, those fundamentals, and that's probably why, to bring it back to our Packers, why the Packers have been doing so well this year, because they just try to do the right things correctly. And I think that's what's led to that consistency.
Yeah. Hey, consistency kills in every realm of life, right? Whether we're talking about working out, if you can't get in 5 days, get in 2 or 3. If you can't work out for an hour, get 20 minutes in, right? Things won't be perfect, but make the best decision that you can in the time. And, you know, thinking Packers, right? Like I saw a stat this year, Aaron Rodgers, quickest release time of his career, shoddy offensive line. You know what? Do what you can with what you have in the moment. So you might have to adapt, but sometimes adapting and doing a little bit less or pressing a little bit less actually leads to a better result. So it's being able to pull away from that perfectionist aspect, or in the case of, you know, maybe Rodgers playing hero ball a little bit like he was, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. Sometimes playing within the system, even if the system is dialed back, leads to what you want to get ultimately anyway.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest thing that we hit on like every week. It's like run the ball. John has this maxim of run the ball 25 times, and we've got like a ridiculous record.
Lost twice, including the playoffs, in 3 years doing it. I mean, it's just like and it has happened in all sorts of different games. But it's like you said, like if you have I read a really good quote at one point, and I don't exactly remember who the author was, but that a tidal wave can do so much damage, but it does nothing compared to the tide. You know, the constant rising and falling is what shapes the
world.
land.
Yeah.
And whereas a tidal wave will recede. And it's like, so don't be, it's always important not to fall into those hero ball habits, right? Where it's like, I'm going to do everything today or this week. And it's like 3 weeks from now, it's like, okay, you did it 3 weeks ago, but it's, you know, not something that's sustainable. And to bring it back to those Packers, man, if we run the ball and we just let that tide take its time, carve out a nice river to victory, you know, I just feel a lot safer with any lead when we've ran the ball like 17 times in the first half. You know, I just feel
I'm with you.
I just feel safer about it. I know the defense is beaten up. I know. So I think it's a lesson that we could instill even further into Aaron Rodgers' current psyche about how he approaches the game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And so I didn't watch all of last week. I kind of turned it off like midway through the third quarter, I will admit.
It was a preseason game, glorified, but
yeah, but I'll tell you one thing I didn't like that I saw. And okay, Rodgers had all day, but did he need all day in the pocket? Because, or is he just running around and playing a little bit because now he's got, you know, David Bakhtiari back and kind of extending there. And again, like, you know, I love Rodgers, fantastic quarterback. Can't ask for somebody to be any more skilled, but I'm hoping what happens, he continues playing within the same guidelines and system and doesn't necessarily try to jump back into those old aspects, because for 2 years, it's been working absolutely spectacular. And it's not that I don't want Bakhtiari back. I think if Bakhtiari plays last year against the Buccaneers and we have a little bit more control on the edge, that's a different game. He's got a little bit better window to hit a couple of throws he's off by a touch on, or just not getting sacked quite as much, or the running game is more established where Aaron Jones doesn't have the worst game of his career, right? So not to discount that. It's just like, you know, play within the system and lock it in. If you got to play hero ball when it's, you know, you got the ball 20 seconds left, or maybe 34 seconds left on a 20-yard line, you got to throw a couple tightrope throws and kick a field goal. Cool, I get that. But, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you talk about like that quick release, especially when you're playing a team that we're going to probably see. I mean, Tampa Bay last year when we faced them, they really threw everything at us, blitzing, but also creative blitzing and a masterful game plan. But it really came down to, we have half a second less time. You know, it was, and Aaron, like you talk about, when he's trying to play hero ball, he's trying to extend plays. But if you just get the ball out quick, it neutralizes all that planning that they've done. And that's, you know, we've always talked about, since LaFleur's gotten there, becoming a team that demoralizes the opponent as opposed to being the demoralized, which I think that was our defense for a number of years there.
Yeah.
I mean, The Buccaneers are a different team than they were last year, but are there for both of you guys? Are there teams that you look at? What kind of? How do you look at the potential opponents? Luckily we have the bye because we're awesome, and so but the NFC, I don't think we can get Tampa Bay or Dallas in the
Correct.
next round, but everybody else is on the table. Tampa Bay and Dallas to me kind of are the two that bother me the most, but I don't know if there's a team, LA, Arizona, Philly, that bothers you guys more than those two.
Personally, I think anybody can win this year more than any. I think the NFC is absolutely stacked from head to toe. At the same time, there's nobody who intimidates me right now. I mean, Dallas's peak is, I think, very high. I just don't think that we're going to see it. And again, look at a guy like Diggs, great number of interceptions, but he's also getting absolutely cooked, right? So it's like, which version of him do you get in a game? The one who's getting cooked, the one who's not. So in terms of teams that scare me a little bit, I'm not scared of Jimmy G, but if they run the ball the way that they can, I think they can run that way against almost everybody, then it can be an incredible ball control type game. And it could hinge on one or two plays that come down to special teams. That's my fear with somebody like San Francisco. Beyond that, the biggest bugaboo for me is still, Tom and Tampa in getting through that. It's just because it is who it is, right? It would be the same thing in AFC playing against Bill. It's like, always finds a way to win. Even if he throws 3 interceptions, he gets carried by his defense all the way to a Super Bowl victory.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. And I really love what you said about the crowd in the NFC this year, because that's kind of my thought as well. Like, there's no team that you're looking at and you're like, oh my God, we're totally screwed. But there's also no team that you're looking at and you're like, oh, that's a shoe-in win. Some people even like throughout the week, at work, people are talking and, oh yeah, hopefully we get the Eagles. And I'm not even sure that that's a surefire victory for us. They still have a really strong defensive line. Fletcher Cox is still there. They can commit to the run. And we've not done particularly well against running quarterbacks, which they've got in Jalen Hurts. So, but at the same time, we can take advantage of that team or any of the others. But yeah, it's just kind of I don't know. This is a really good year. Like, they've been talking about the NFL parity for all these years now, but this is, I think, to me, really, really out there and really obvious this year.
Yeah. And I think talking about even just the strength of the NFC compared to the AFC, if we want to jump into an award for a minute, that's why I think Matt LaFleur should be a no-brainer, even over Vrabel, regardless of like the number of starters that they have missed, and they got the number 1 seed. Great. If you put Tennessee in the NFC, where are they likely going to be?
Yeah,
4, 5, 6.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure because they play different competition. But looking at them, you're like, I mean, yeah, Ryan Tannehill as their start. Like, nothing about them stands out to say like, oh yeah, they would be any better in our conference rather.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think the best teams in the NFL on any given week are, in no particular order, Green Bay, Dallas, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and I mean, probably Arizona.
And I would say maybe the Bills too, out of the AFC.
But I'd prefer Kyler Murray and that offense over the Bills. Maybe not in the playoffs but that defense has been more shaky than we've come to expect of it. But I guess I just look at it like, at least the majority of the top 5 teams are in the NFC.
Yeah.
If not the vast majority. I think, like I said, Mahomes and the Chiefs on any given Sunday can be the best team in football. So, and maybe they just are. And maybe we see them in the Super Bowl, or maybe we don't if we lose, which would suck. But I think that like I said, out of the top 5 teams, at least 3, probably 4, in my opinion, are the 5 best teams in football. So I think, yeah, the NFC is it's a slaughterhouse compared to the pastry shop over there in the AFC.
So I know this is a Wisconsin sports podcast. Eric, anything else to add on these other teams before we really just get into what we all want to talk about, and that's the Packers and our recent awards and who we like there?
No, I think we hit it off. I think we nailed it.
Me too. Awesome. So Devontae, just got the All-Pro. Obviously, Aaron got the All-Pro. And my favorite of the 3 All-Pros is Devondre Soup Campbell. I'm so pumped with the way that he's played this year and to really fill that void. We've just had this huge void there all year. I think he and Devontae, Aaron, of course, we expect All-Pro from him, but I believe that Devontae and Soup in their own ways have had just remarkable years that are outstanding amongst a competition of this year. But from what we've seen out of those position groups, period, like I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think, one thing with Campbell specifically that stands out, or just how all of it's worked. One, I want to give some credit to Barry as a defensive coordinator in terms of where he puts linebackers in position. But the defensive line has also been exponentially better. I mean, Kenny Clark played at an all-pro level, even though he didn't get the nod. Dean Lowry, remember everyone wanted Dean Lowry gone. He's been fantastic. Even guys like Lancaster, it's like they leveled up just a little bit in terms of what they do. And it didn't feel like there was a massive drop off there was definitely a drop off in terms of linebacker play when you look at the first half against Detroit. That's another conversation. But how consistent the defensive line was, I feel like that freed up linebackers quite a bit more, and especially somebody as talented as Campbell, and then being in a great system allowed him to flourish. So I think it's a number of factors, but he's been an absolute game wrecker, and he doesn't miss a tackle. Does not miss it, and he's always in the right place.
And that's what I'm hoping when Jair gets back. That was something that was very good about our defense last year, but could be even better and will be even better this year if he does come back, is that it almost makes us a complete defensive one-man, one-tackle guys. I mean, the torpedoes we have in our secondary when we're healthy, combined with a guy at that position in Campbell, who, like you said, he just never misses a tackle. That's such an upgrade over Kirksey and Blake Martinez, who sometimes couldn't even get to the tackle to make it. Our ceiling defensively is as high as I've seen it since Reggie White was here. I mean, I can't think of a Packers defense between then and now that's had me this excited.
Yeah, the talent level across the board, people getting healthy. I hope they play Jair a bit in the slot, but I wonder if he's kind of moving around in that slot position, how he does overall. And from the physicality aspect, are they going to try to run directly at it? He's going to get, crack blocks, trying to pull out, put people on, because he's fearless.
Yeah.
But he's also fearless at 190 pounds.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that you've talked about before, Eric, and I believe you played corner, or at least a secondary position when you used to play football. And that's something that can be taken advantage of, I suppose, if you've got a guy that's maybe a little hampered by injury and they want to really focus the physicality on that specific position.
Yeah. That's something.
Packers are conservative. I mean, injury wise, like he won't come back unless he's healthy. I mean, if there's one thing we've learned over these last few years, people just don't play hurt unless you want to count Aaron Rodgers' toe or whatever. But like for the most part, if a guy's even a little bit banged up, they come out of the rest of the game, and then they are out like 3 or 4 weeks. Now that is early regular season football compared to, we have 3 games left in this season, maybe none if we don't win here, So yeah, I think that would be my strategy immediately if I'm the offensive coordinator of whoever is against us, is run wherever Jair is, whether he's on the edge or not. You start running sweeps, if he's inside, I think it makes it a bit easier. So you're right. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I think he would be on the outside. That's where I'd put him. I mean, personally.
Yeah, for me, I just think his skill set and his movement skills are so elite where he matches up in that slot well. And I don't know, do I want Stokes in the slot? Do I want Rasul in the slot the way that they're playing? I think if you have your best 3 out there, it's those 3. Because listen, Sullivan, he'll make some plays, but he'll give some up. He'll get, every now and then he'll get roasted, particularly in a big game. Kevin King, he's been better this year. I'll give him a little credit there, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to get out the memories of Scotty Miller, from my experience. So it'll be interesting the way that they do it. But ultimately, I think if Green Bay shows up and has the guys in position that they need to, they should be able to beat every single team in the playoffs if people do their job.
Yeah, and I'm anticipating, to kind of bring it back to Joe Barry, I'm anticipating, because of what we've seen out of Jair. Now, maybe if Jair is not coming off of an injury where he did forego a surgery that would have been the most conservative treatment to get him that surgery and bring him back next season, as opposed to what they ended up going with and just saying he's going to kind of let it heal and bring him back. I think that is a little bit of a potential liability. I don't know that he would be back if it wasn't playoffs, but I do wonder how multiple Barry tries to make us to kind of move that chess piece around, kind of give them the offense that we're facing, whoever that may be. Something else they need to pay attention to. And I think that speaks directly to why Campbell's had the success that he has had. We do a lot more stunts with our defensive line than we have in recent years, a lot more movement there and confusing offensive linemen. And I think we'll see, regardless of who's out there and what spots, I think will be extremely multiple, at least from what we've seen out of Joe Barry to this point.
Yeah, it could be something where, they're getting more depth back. They got Merciless coming back. Obviously, that's crazy. Yeah. Za'Darius, obviously, they're going to be on a pitch count, but with so many versatile guys who can move and play in multiple dimensions, like it could be a chess piece game. They could be playing guys multiple different places, so the offense doesn't really know what's coming up either. I'm just really excited to see what happens when we're playing with a little bit more of a full deck than we have all year, especially on defense.
Yeah, and that Merciless move, that I think that caught everybody by surprise. Everybody's been talking about like, oh yeah, we're gonna get Za'Darius. And this is the thing I love about what we've seen in the current iteration of the Packers is like nobody had even conceived that we might see Whitney Merciless coming back as well. And I noticed, especially in that Browns game, we'd have like Tipa Galea would be out there. We saw plenty of Jonathan Garvin. And as I'm watching this game, we're giving those guys those first, second down snaps. And then I got to a point where I actually thought to myself, are Preston and Gary both injured? And then they put them in on third down as those rushing specialists. But God, what happens when you've got those two on first and second down? And they're, I would say, two of our premier guys as far as holding the point. I don't think Za'Darius is as good at sealing the edge, but to think of Za'Darius and Merciless coming in on third down, God, that's equally as effective. And I think that's going to be really to our advantage.
Yeah, think of the pass rush package that you could come up with those guys on. And, it's almost like instead of having guys who are replacement level and experience younger, even if these guys come back at 80%, which, I don't think any of us are expecting them to be 100% all-pro type players at their peak after being out for a whole year. But even if they come in as average or slightly above average NFL players, that is a significant upgrade for a lot of snaps throughout the course of a game. And that's all you really need. Like that can be enough to get you over the hump.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love it. John, you've been kind of quiet. Anything else to add? Cause I want to move on to Devontae as well.
No, I just got, caught up in looking through these, rushing statistics for the Packers throughout the playoffs over the last few years. And there's a trend. There's a trend. But no, let's get to Devontae because Devontae, I've said it multiple times. I think non-Randy Moss division is the best wide receiver I've seen since Jerry Rice. He's able to get open and catch the ball on a consistent basis that it's almost like a video game, like watching him and Aaron Rodgers specifically pitch and catch all day for these last couple of years. But especially this season, there seems to be quite a bit of telekinetic energy between the two of them. And I don't know what is this Devontae's best season. I feel like we've been asking that for like 3 years now. Is like, this is Devontae's best season. This is Devontae's best season. And it's like, the guy's a Hall of Famer, probably, right? And I think that, though, it's going to come out in the playoffs, I think, as far as the legacy of these two dudes here in Green Bay, because despite all their on the field and regular season production up until the biggest stage, they have been awesome, but those two have floundered a bit in these huge moments that I hope that this year can be kind of a like exercising of those demons, because I've gotten to the point that most people got to at the Bucks where it's like, what does the regular season even matter for the stats for these two? Like, he better be first team all pro. Was he first team last year? He must have been. Yeah, he was. Yeah. And it's like, they better be. Like, they've set this bar. And I am always, though, unbelievably impressed by how high they keep taking it. I mean, it is like they're an unstoppable duo.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. And I feel like Devonta, as great as he is, occasionally has like just a couple maybe concentration drops, or where he's so dialed in on maybe making the next move. What game was it a couple weeks ago where he had 2 on that final possession that would have been iced for the rest of the game? Again, I would take no other receiver in the NFL the way I would Devonta, but it was like that. And then last year in NFC Championship game, 1 or 2 plays that I wouldn't necessarily characterize them as drops, but I would characterize those as plays that arguably the best receiver over the last 10 years needs to make in a position like that. And we can say that about Rodgers too, in terms of ball placement on a couple of those, right? So I think it needs to be a reckoning, right? It needs to be a reckoning for the rest of the year and make sure that those things happen, whereas they haven't before.
Yeah, and honestly, like just kind of seeing how things have gone. For me this year, the real special thing has been the relationship that Aaron and Devontae have. Talking about a couple weeks ago, Aaron doesn't even have to make a motion towards the guy. Like they're so good at like that, almost like the Sandlot aspects of playing ball and just kind of knowing where they need to adjust. But as far as what we've seen out of Devontae, I don't know a guy that I've seen other than Jerry Rice. Like Randy Moss is a whole other story. Like we've talked about that ad nauseum on the podcast. He's like that's just a freak of nature. But
it's going to be like when people compare people to Giannis. It's going to be like, well, you can't really.
You can't. Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
But yeah, just getting off the coverage and getting into open space and making stuff happen. But yeah, John, I know you want to talk about the run game. Anything else? This is almost just going to be like our entire Packers segment for this week.
Yeah.
I feel like this is good stuff.
Yeah. Eric, is there anything else you wanted to add? Mine's kind of just a little factoid. So I want to open the floor to you guys. If there's anything in this bye week where we don't have to focus so heavily on our team, if there's anything you're watching this weekend or looking for this weekend that is going to be relevant to the Packers next week, their game at home.
Not specifically for me. What I tend to look at actually in games like this, and when I'm preparing, is like, what do the pass rushes look like for the opposing teams? Because like, who are the game wreckers? Because it's different. It's a different animal in the playoffs, right? We see it every year. Somebody comes alive, and then it is absolutely insane what happens. So for me, I always keep an eye on that and like who seems to have elevated up to that next position, where they look like they could be a completely different team come playoff time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's why every team is scary. I think you just really summed it up right there.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to be watching Dallas. They're the team to me that, because they have the DVOA, the statistical bearings of a real contender.
Just full disclosure, John loves the advanced stats.
But on top of that, well, I like the raw stats too, because on top of that, they force the most, or they cause the most sacks. They intercept the most balls. They just are a playmaking team all over. And I texted this over to you, Nick, but Mike McCarthy versus Aaron Rodgers worries me a bit. I did say it's like the B movie version of Belichick versus Brady, like not as good of a plot, not as strong of characters, but like, more action and comedy, But,
you know what doesn't bother me though? LaFleur versus McCarthy.
No,
same.
No,
Me
neither.
Being honest.
Me neither. So, but yeah, Nick, is there anything you wanted to add before I throw out my run the damn ball stat for this week?
So I think LaFleur is the boy genius. I think you talk about Dallas and all their takeaways. Well, we have one of the most efficient offenses as far as giveaways go. So I think that really does kind of play to our favor. And just watching that game against Arizona a couple weeks ago, they don't scare me to the level I thought that they would when they can't force those turnovers. So I do want to say that. And I do think the boy genius, Doogie Howser, beats out George Clooney, we'll say, on this one, if you're comparing LaFleur to McCarthy. But honestly, I think running the ball will be a big aspect of that. And I don't know that McCarthy is willing to run the ball. And we've seen this throughout his career. He's got Zeke, but he still doesn't utilize Zeke. He's turned Dak into like that next level. Zeke has kind of stalled out still. Maybe that's Zeke, but maybe that's McCarthy too. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think McCarthy has ever not put the better running back, who seems to be a slasher, in to get the majority of carries as a quarter. Has he ever done that? I mean, a little Aaron Rodgers, Tony Pollard, comparison right there. I'm sorry, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard.
Here's what worries me. Here's my stat, gentlemen. So in our previous 2 playoff appearances under LaFleur, both as the 1 seed, both getting the bye the first week, we come out and we run the fucking ball, and we, excuse my language.
How dare you, sir?
Right. We run the ball to the tune of like 30 plus times in both the divisional round against the Seahawks and the divisional round against the Rams last season. And it's kind of runaway victories, right? But then we come out in the championship game, and like, this is almost a joke. Both of them, we run the ball 16 times in both of our previous 2 losses, for 62 and 67 yards. I just can't overstate the amount of importance that needs to be put towards, like you said, demoralizing the other team physically. Like, it's the playoffs, man. It is mano a mano, a man across the line from you. Every single play matters. Everything matters. And and we've talked a lot on this podcast. Is it Rodgers kind of pushing and pulling his way to more passing attempts? But like last year, he threw the ball 48 times. It's like, congratulations, but it didn't result in a victory for very obvious reasons, because come the end of the game, they had enough in the tank to stop us when they needed to.
Yeah. And like you
go
said before, right? With a powerful running game, it's demoralizing, and especially in the cold weather. They're the things that add up, right? It's those 2-yard runs in the first quarter that become 3, that become 4, that become 8, especially when you have somebody like A.J. Dillon. And the way that Green Bay can score quickly, I'm not worried if they stick to that game plan and are behind for a chunk of the game, because if they stick to what they do, I think they come out on top. It's just like, if they go away from the identity that they've spent the last 2 years and like 3 drafts building at that time, the numbers say everything, right? It's come up 5 points short.
Yep. It's we're almost there, but like I said, it's just short. We just can't push through, and it's because the other team has, like I said, enough in the tank towards the end of these games. Now, the San Francisco game, fine, but even that, like, do we go down 27-0 at halftime if we at least try to establish the run on a couple of those drives? But we just had 3 and out after 3 and out. It's like 45 seconds comes off the clock on a drive. Can't have. If that happens in the first quarter against Dallas or Arizona or San Francisco, or not San Francisco, Tampa Bay, I think we're in trouble. The other thing too is Rodgers has thrown a pick in all our losses and no picks in all our wins. Like, those are those marginal things that, what is it? Probably 25% of his interceptions on the season last year were thrown in the NFC Championship game with 1.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, we're not, when you play all year one way and something goes wrong, how do you respond? And I hope that this team is finally the LaFleur team that has the ability to just get over that hump, feel confident enough in themselves to just extinguish the opponent.
And with that being said, Eric, I know you got some other stuff going on here today. We'll let you get back to your regularly scheduled program. Anything else you want to add before we see you out for the most recent edition here?
Go Pack Go, man. We're going to win the Super Bowl 31-28.
Beautiful.
Against Kansas City. That's what's happening. I'm going for it.
Yeah. Appreciate your time today, man. Of course, you can find Eric if you search Eric Bach or Bach Performance on all your social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Are you on Twitter?
I am. Twitter is Eric_Bach. So little shift on that, but pretty straightforward.
Thanks for coming back on. You were on this podcast when we were a tiny little podcast that had never done triple digit numbers of episodes. And we really appreciate your support back then. We look forward to the 200th episode when, we'll be coming back talking about whatever else we've talked about over these 3 years. Or whatever.
Love it. Congratulations, guys.
Thanks, man. Take care. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Yeah. So actually, as we were going on there, Eric was texting me his daughter crying. And so he had to get running. But I will say this, if you follow Eric's social media, you're going to see awesome, the free stuff. He really does give it away. You go on his page and it's nothing but just the simple fundamentals that you need for your fitness aspects. But then also he does some additional services that he offers through his coaching programs, and just a great guy. I've known him for years and appreciate him coming on here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this will be a portion, I would guess, of the Packers segment. It's looking like, so
yeah, let's get to whoever's next
or whoever was before.
This segment was obviously taped beforehand.
Yeah, this is the only one. So this will be part of our 100th episode. We'll be wearing different clothes, but
yeah, let's throw it over to future us.
Yeah. Snap. You just named a bunch of tight ends.
I did, Nick. It's a position group that I particularly am interested in this upcoming week, because I'd like to see us run the ball and getting enough big bodies out on the field to physically dominate a San Francisco defense that has been the dominator in many of their games of late.
However, Big Bob will not be one of those bodies that we see on the field because he's on IR for the rest of the year.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is, do we have enough? Are those guys good enough? Josiah, Mercedes Lewis, because there isn't anybody else.
And what I'm saying here is we got 3 guys coming back, because I'm really defensively focused. So we're going to have 3 guys that we haven't seen in some time. Jair, who's been out since week 4. Of course, it'll be great to have him back. Our secondary's been really solid. Rasul Douglas was a really nice addition. We have not talked about these points as the season has gone on. Zadarius, we haven't seen yet this year. Did we see him week 1? I don't think we've seen him since.
He played a couple snaps, and I think he left early.
Yeah, so he had the back surgery. He'll be back. I think at Zadarius's prime, he is the worst guy you can have holding the point on the edge in the run game, but also a really excellent situational pass rusher, and a guy that nobody predicted would be coming back this year in Whitney Merciless. That was a little bit of a throw in bonus. I didn't see that as being an option even. I mean, we were all talking about Bakhtiari. We're talking about Myers coming back. We're talking about Zadarius and Jair, of course, but Whitney Merciless played very well in his time playing with us. And I think we've got a really nice 4-man rushing unit. Whether it's first, second, or third down, it's going to be really tough for a defense to have any time throwing the ball against us.
Yep. And we did talk about a lot of this stuff in the additional segment for this episode that we taped previously with Eric. But now we know the matchup. Green Bay Packers will be hosting the San Francisco 49ers Saturday, January 22nd. Start time is 7:15 p.m. Wisconsin time. Game will be played at Lambeau. It could be cold. It'll likely be cold. And this is a team that we played way back in week 3 or 4, and we barely beat them. Since then, they really turned their ship around. They did. So we started a 4-game losing streak for them. Since then, they've only lost 3 times since week 8. So what do we see in this matchup specifically that is going to be important for these Packers to come out victorious against a team that beat us a couple of years ago in the playoffs, played a pretty tight game with us earlier this year? Both of those were at, what is it, Candlestick? And it's not Candlestick anymore, I'm sure. But
no, it has. I mean, they've got a new stadium. Regardless, though, I don't recall whether we played there or whether they came to us, but this winter they're coming to us, and that's what's most important to me in this matchup.
We played there the last couple of times.
Well, while I'm talking about this, look it up, please. I would really appreciate it.
I did. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we played.
Thank you, John. This is why I keep him around. It's not just because he's hilarious and he comes up with good Laura Ingalls quotes.
Home is the sweetest word there is. Thank you, Laura Ingalls Wilder, for that.
But I do want to talk about this. And last week we saw the Niners play against Dallas, the most Mike McCarthy game ever. And I can't wait to talk about that. But what I do want to put as a little aside is that Garoppolo has a shoulder sprain. Both Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are expected to play Saturday. However, Jordan Willis has a high ankle sprain. So this is a team that's beat up. There's nothing worse than being beat up while you're playing against a feckless fool such as Mike McCarthy, because this was like a pure, I loved the McCarthiness of this game.
Yeah, let's take a couple minutes just on Niners Cowboys this wild card weekend.
It said everything I needed to see to think, I'm so glad we moved on from McCarthy to Matt LaFleur.
Yeah,
I'll let you guys take the floor. I've been just holding the point on this.
Giever, what were your thoughts on the Mike McCarthy-led Dallas Cowboys losing in stylish fashion to the San Francisco 49ers?
So I'm positive that the other like 4 or 5 times I watched the Cowboys play football this year, they tried to run the ball.
Yes.
And for some reason, in classic McCarthy fashion, we just decided, well, we can't do that this weekend. It's a big game.
Can't do it.
If you tuned in for the last play, Dallas did try to run the ball.
Oh, yeah. God.
Which, of course, as we know in Mike McCarthy fashion, you're just not going to have timeouts the last drive. You're just not. When you need them.
No, he used them all. He already used them all.
So good at operating without any timeouts in the last drive. Well, 11 years. 11 years of practice.
Right.
You get to a point where you start to think like, I used to, it was sort of this whole theme of like the Packers, they just can't win the big one. This to me looked exactly like the Seahawks game where, don't get me wrong, Dallas pretty much trailed the majority of this game, or if not all of the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they had plenty of opportunities in this one, and they had an opportunity to win it at the end of the game. And McCarthy, his teams seem to have no understanding of the situational aspects. Now, Dallas, to me, was a very talented team. That's a talented defense. They've got guys like Randy Gregory. They've got guys like DeMarcus Lawrence. They've got guys like he who shall not be named, Micah Parsons. And of course, the other Diggs, who's been putting up record-breaking seasons on takeaways. However, with all of those things, and even like an afterthought Leighton Vander Esch, they've got all these guys, all these pieces, all these talented players. And even still, with all that, and with Dak playing beyond what he's played at any point in his career, they still find a way to give the game away to a team that, looking at the Niners, they have their warts.
I'm so excited.
Still really good.
Yeah, they're still really good, but
I think they're equally as talented as Dallas. It's just that I don't
know.
They never really made Jimmy Garoppolo have to be a quarterback. Like, he's great when they can run the football and he can go throw it to his scheduled guys on time, and he can play behind kind of the run game and the defense. As soon as you make it, Jimmy, you have to start making throws here. Most of the time, it's bad for him. Now, he did come back and beat LA to get into the playoffs,
right?
With some good throws. So he can beat you. It's just 1 out of every 3 times. And they never really did that. And they also just shit the bed, the whole first half.
San Francisco had 25 passing attempts in the game, which is right in Jimmy G's wheelhouse as far as attempts go. 172 yards, 1 pick. They did have 38 rushes for 169 yards against Dallas.
And they were running the ball pretty well until the second half.
Right. And they're going to try to do the same thing against this Packers defense. My current belief is that you can't run on us because with Kenny Clark, Tyler Lancaster, Kingsley Keke, Dean Lowry, and then Gary, Preston Smith, who's been not playing as well lately as he did in the beginning of the year. But our front 7 should be able to hold their running game in check.
Rashawn Gary doesn't get to stunt inside this game.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Period. Never once.
No.
Not once.
Because they'll take so much advantage of that. They run so many wide receiver flares, reverses, and
Shanahan will just run 4 of those plays right in a row, knowing that Gary's going to cut inside and blow the edge once.
Right.
I think if we have to worry about anybody blowing the edge, though, it's gonna be Zadarius Smith, which is why I think he'll be relegated to the third down
Third
duty.
long.
But
Third
the
long.
biggest thing I can say is San Francisco doesn't have that prime run game the same way that they did when they beat us with 8 passes a couple of years ago. And we don't have the terrible run defense that we do where we're playing dime all game, because the defense can beat you, or the offense can beat you faster with the pass than the run. Now, Joe Barry has actually taken into account offenses very much like San Francisco's, because he came from an offense just like that with Sean McVay in LA. And of course, he coaches against an offense like that now here in Green Bay. So I don't necessarily know that they're going to have the one-sided rushing advantage that they had before. Now, if there is an X factor in the run game for them, it's George Kittle. George Kittle is, in my opinion, the best run blocking tight end, maybe next to Mercedes Lewis, who's been lights out this year. But I think there's opportunities for San Francisco to run the ball. But Jimmy Garoppolo is not Aaron Rodgers. That, to me, that gives us a huge edge. And Aaron Rodgers, hopefully in this game, isn't going to play hero ball. Hopefully in this game, we see a steady, healthy dose of A.J. Dillon. I'll be wearing my A.J. Dillon jersey. I'm going to be trying to will that into the ethers. Hopefully the rest of the world agrees with me. And then when you have Aaron Jones as the speed back after you're pounding the guys, this is such a different team than the one that lost to the Niners in the playoffs a couple of years ago. And I'm hoping that mixed with Fred Warner being dinged up, Nick Bosa being dinged up, a Garoppolo that has a shoulder injury, maybe that's enough to get us there. I do agree, Giever. The Niners were a team that coming into these playoffs scared the crap out of me. Still do. I'm not even gonna lie. They still scare me. But when I start to look at all these different factors, I have to think, God, we have a better shot than we had at least 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a better shot. I think we should expect to win.
Yeah.
We're much better. They're worse.
Right.
They're still good. They still got a lot of players that can hurt you. They still got a pretty solid defense. But I mean, we put up like 30 something on them the last 2 times we played them.
It was 30 exactly.
Yeah. So no, this is not the same team we played that year. And oh man, the Rams are crushing the Cardinals.
Yeah. Well.
And that was interesting, too, because to me, that was the game. And that was the biggest wild card. But to me, that was the wild card game that was the most questionable, because both of those teams have been so inconsistent recently. Now, we saw Arizona get a nice win over Dallas a couple weeks ago.
Dallas is very good.
Yeah. Well, and we saw the Rams not play very well as well. So I'm really glad I got to throw in that wild card pun. I know it made John very happy. My inner dad joke aspects are just delighted. But yeah, so if it's the Rams versus the Buccaneers, I think that's setting up for us another game where if we can get past San Francisco, where we could be looking at a pretty decimated squad in that NFC Championship, ideally.
I think you're looking too far ahead. I think the Niners are going to give us a bit of an issue this week.
Going to give us hell, you think?
Well,
I think they're going to give us more fits than the Rams did last year.
Yeah.
But
and the Seahawks.
I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable 28-17 or 20 game.
Well, here's the things that I look at that worry me when I look at this matchup is that our rush yards per game allowed is now all the way down to 18th in the league. We finished 18th in the league. We were top 5 through week 10. Our defensive passing yards per game allowed is 10th, but they're not going to try to throw it. They're 7th in the league in rushing yards per game. They're only going to run more in the playoffs, whereas I feel like the Packers are going to run less in the playoffs. If we don't run the ball and control the clock in this one, I think that there is just something about the 49ers and Aaron Rodgers that kind of messes with them. We had no business winning that game earlier this season. And
no, we basically gave it up at the end and then took it at the very end.
Yeah.
We threw the ball well. We ran the ball well. They actually did not run the ball well against us. There were 21 carries for 67 yards.
Right.
If they can't run on us, that was when we still had Kevin King playing. So Garoppolo kind of figured us out at the end, threw for 257. But
and it helped our run defense. Ever since Rasul Douglas has become a starter on this defense, our run defense has dropped dramatically. And the reason for that is because he's replacing a guy in Kevin King, or even looking back further, Jair Alexander, who are elite rush defending corners. Now, without one of those two, now maybe we will see Jair, right? But without those torpedoes in the secondary, I do worry about the Packers' ability to stop that running game. And
so have to stop the run and make Jimmy beat you with his arm. That's all we have to do.
Yes,
He'll
that's
get some
game plan.
Rasul will give one up. Rasul will take one away. You know.
I also want to talk about this factor because we're talking a lot about our ability to defend the run. We've talked about frequently since getting Matt LaFleur here is our ability, our capability, you will say, that maybe we could be a demoralizer. So one thing I want to point out to you guys, when you're looking at the strength of San Francisco's defense, now, and let's go off of the Pro Football Focus numbers here. When you're looking at their top defensive players, those are all interior defenders. We're talking guys like Eric Armstead, DJ Jones, even Arden Key. Those are the strength of their defense is right there in the middle in those D tackle positions. Now at edge rusher, they've got their top ranked position player on defense, and that's Nick Bosa. I think we give them a healthy dose of Aaron Jones off tackle to start the game. And by the time we get into the later parts of the game, especially if we can get an early lead, if we can get a couple of these nice, like Aaron and Devontae, doing mind games kind of plays where we can get a nice little early lead. We do a lot of off tackle runs to start it and then start pounding down the middle. I think we're really going to give them something that's hard to deal with. They don't have that guy to me, that running back that can run all over us. And I mean, I will say this, they've got a really excellent tackle pairing there between Compton and Trent Williams. Yes. So that's been really good for them. So we're going to see a lot of off tackle runs too, which the idea of Zadarius Smith coming in only on third downs, that appeals to me. The idea of Whitney Merciless coming in, those two guys coming in fresh, that appeals to me as well. So can we hold up in the interior long enough to keep those torpedoes coming off the edges like you talk about with Alexander coming back? So maybe that gives us an edge there. But certainly this is going to be a real chess match where both teams are going to be utilizing their run and pass game.
Well, I sure hope that it is that, because with their interior defensive linemen, and you saw it in the Dallas game, they forced 5 sacks and they gave up no sacks. The 5 sacks that they forced, like their interior of their defensive line is probably going to eat our lunch on the interior without Elton Jenkins. Can we run the ball enough, especially throughout the first 3 quarters, to get it so that they can't just pin their ears back in the fourth quarter? Because if Aaron Rodgers gets sacked, if we lose that sack numbers game by a wider margin than 1 or 2, I think A, we need to get 2 or 3 sacks minimum, and B, we need to not allow more sacks than we get ourselves, because Aaron Rodgers will all of a sudden start doing the 3 and out, short dump off passes, and then missing the ball down the field and then taking a sack, as opposed to running. What we see from this offense when it's at its best is run the ball 5 or 6 yards, run the ball 5 or 6 yards, play action 20 yards, run the ball 5 or 6 yards. We need to establish our running game right from the jump. Otherwise, we're going to be playing from behind in a physical domination type matchup.
I guess I have one question for you. Is San Francisco's defense anything comparable to what Tampa Bay's defense was last year that retired Drew Brees and made Patrick Mahomes look awful?
No, but I don't necessarily know that it needs to be. And the difference, I'll say this, is because the Buccaneers
are they better than the Rams defense was last year?
Well, but here's the difference.
We had Elton Jenkins. And
here's
the best lineman.
And also Aaron Donald. But here's the difference. Tampa Bay had a series of guys that can rush from the edge. This is a very different situation. Now, their top defensive player is Nick Bosa, but they've consistently drafted interior defensive linemen, which is why I'm going to go back to it too. Aaron Jones being a great off tackle run, but we also have all of our best run blockers at those edge positions. So you look at Bakhtiari, our top healthy run blocker that's not named Aaron Jones. But then you look at guys like Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara. They're some of our top run blockers. And I don't know if it's going to be Kelly or Turner, but those guys are also up there on our run blocking. So that's why I'm saying I think our run to daylight moment, our strategy to getting some real mismatches are going to be taking advantage of those edges and maybe not letting those interior defensive linemen be a factor until later in the game where they might be a little winded from chasing down some plays.
I mean, I hope so, because they've got such a stable of dudes. I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dudes with more than three or more sacks. I mean, whether it's D Ford, Jordan Willis, Katavius Street, Samson, Ebicom, Eric Armstead, and then the big names Arden Key and Nick Bosa. Like, they have so many guys to throw at us in the middle of our defense, in the middle of our offense. With the middle of our offensive line is arguably our weakest position group on our offense. Can they hold up enough to get some sort of wear and tear on these guys by the time the fourth quarter rolls around? That to me is what I'm going to be watching.
And you'll hear about this later on in this episode with our pre-record with Eric Bach. But that's another thing too, is Aaron Rodgers going to try to play hero ball and hold on to the ball because Bakhtiari's there? Or is he going to get out quick and make these interior rushers kind of a non-factor? Will Josh Myers, his addition coming back, help us in any way? I'm not willing to put all my eggs in that basket, but I think that could make a change for us there too, or make it some sort of a difference in the game. But yeah, this is going to be a real chess match. And LaFleur and Shanahan have each other's number. They know each other's tendencies. This is going to be just a fun one to watch all around. I'm really excited for the chess match.
You guys are convincing me that I think it's going to be 35-17 Green Bay.
Yes. Yes.
What do we do well? We have Alan Lazard in a much better place than he was last year when we got into the playoffs. Aaron and Devontae are coming. Aaron Jones already had success against San Francisco. A.J. Dillon's in a better place. Our line's getting healthy. Our D-line's getting healthy. We're much better against the run, and I want to man up against their receivers and see if Jimmy Garoppolo can actually thread the needle, or is Rasul going to take one back? Is Jair going to take one back? Is Amos going to take one back? Who's going to take one to the house? I don't think so. 35-17.
35-17. Put it in.
Bring on Tampa Bay or LA.
That's why we get Giever for the 100th episode right there.
That is the reason. Man, I love it, Giever. That was so well done. You just took all the stuff that we were just throwing at the wall and really
shit all over it.
So we're a really good team, guys.
We are.
Good team.
We are.
San Francisco's got some good players. They got a good coach. They can do some things.
Maybe.
They just beat Dallas, who's an NFC East team, who has lost to every single good team they played this year. Yes. They can look very impressive beating the shit out of the New York Giants like the rest of the fucking league.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not worried about it. Okay.
Okay.
Probably cause us some problems, not too much to win. They're the same as the Rams were last year. And we beat the Rams 32-18. It was pretty easy.
Well, I love all that. I don't have much to add. I know after this we'll probably tag on Eric at the end of this.
Well, you got to add your prediction.
Yeah, that's all I need from you, Giever. Is you got your prediction 35-17. I'm going up to Lambeau. I will be there Saturday night.
I'm hoping to be.
Dude, I'm sticking with Giever's prediction. I'm going to say the same damn thing. I'm saying 35-17. I've convinced Giever to convince me.
Well, as you know, I'm a big proponent of running the fucking ball. And as you know, when we run the ball in the playoffs, we win. And when we don't, we tend to lose. I think we're going to run the ball in this one. I think A.J. Dillon's going to have 100 yards. It's going to be his coming out party to anybody who doesn't know who he is yet. And I think we're going to win 35-17.
Beautiful. 35-17. It's official.
Actually, wait. 35-24 because of the special teams.
And actually, let me just do this. We'll put Eric before this because it happened chronologically before.
Yeah.
And we'll close out the episode right here. Giever, thank you once again for joining us.
Giever, thanks for all you've done over these previous 100 episodes.
Probably all 5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's been on here about 1% of the 100 episodes or 2%, but who's counting?
I'd say 5%.
Dan, you're so much better at math than I am. And that's why I hope you guys all enjoy listening to this Wisconsin-based podcast. Enter to win those Giannis Zoom Freak threes.
Yes! Nick, thank you. Giever, thank you. Listener, thank you. We'll see you on the other side of 100.
Yes, and we'll be happy to do many more episodes. I'll be drinking a 101 proof whiskey next week. Thanks again.
For the spelled like words.